This 3D imaging really brings everything to life here. It's really neat. We're gonna duck into the shade here and walk down by the stream. I like the immersive qualities to this footage. You feel like you're part of the action. The lighting adjusts very well with this too. It of course has the dual 1080p cameras, which does translate to almost 4K footage when viewing it with both. So now I've changed the focus to the 0.9 to 1.2 feet away from me. So this is the closest focus that this camera can do, and I think it's a lot better now. I should be in focus. I have no way of telling for sure until I get back inside, but this does have a neat selfie mirror right here between the eyes on here. So it's pretty cool. And by eyes, I mean the lenses. There's one here and one here. So with the focus like that, I now can get my subject in focus, but the background's gonna be blurred. So before I had the focus set to infinity, and infinity is gonna be the best as long as you're at least 3 feet away from your subject. It's gonna make sure that everything's in focus for you. But if you want to do a close-up and kind of get that background blur look, this is gonna be the way to do it. Focus is really easy to adjust. There's just a slider, you slide it left to right. It gives you the ranges as you slide it. What did you find there? Wow, that's a big stick. By the way, having that closer focus looks really neat if you have a subject like plants that you're going along to, because those are in focus, but the background is blurred. So that is pretty cool. Like these pine needles right here, and these leaves right here, right after the rain. So that is pretty cool. So it is worth noting that the QooCam Ego is kind of in the early stages. So Kandao has noted that they're going to be releasing more firmware updates for this. And I expect one of those firmware updates is going to include electronic image stabilization. Right now, the QooCam Ego does not have built-in stabilization, so you do want to use it on a gimbal if you want footage that's relatively smooth and usable. And right now I have it mounted on the Moza Mini P.
I'm gonna see if I have another log to throw.
You gonna find another?
I'm gonna find one here.
So with the Kandao QooCam, it makes me wonder if this is going to be the future of VR. So the 3D is neat, it's very immersive, but the viewfinder is also neat because you can immediately hold this up, look at the footage and relive the moment, which is super cool. You also can share these scenes with other people, and you can upload them to YouTube so that your audience can view them with VR. Now, you do need a VR headset to view this, so it's not something where you can just necessarily see it directly on your computer. So this video right now, if you're not watching it in VR, it's gonna look a little bit weird, and that's because it is 3D. But if you're watching it in VR, it's gonna feel super immersive. You're gonna get the full experience that way. So now I've got this back to the infinity focus. That means as long as I keep my subject more than 3 feet away, he'll still be in focus. If he gets closer than 3 feet like this, he's gonna be blurry and out of focus. So always check your focus mode, that is important. But I love that about this camera. A lot of other cameras like this that are smaller in size, or a lot of the action cameras, you can't change the focus. You gotta stick with the default focus there, which doesn't allow you to really focus on those subjects close up. So I really like the focus abilities on here. The exposure does a good job of adjusting to the changing light as well. So I'm pretty impressed with that. You do have the ability to set the EV comp on here as well. So if this has a tendency to overexpose, you can easily adjust the EV comp to -3, -1, all the way down to -2, I believe. This is with the EV comp set to -1. Definitely makes a difference. The highlights are not even close to blown out now. Looks a lot better. And if you do EV comp of -1, when you're editing, you can always bring up the exposure too, and you'll still have the details there and the highlights to bring out. EV comp of -1 looks quite good, in fact. So for frame rate for this footage, you have two choices. You can do 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second. For 3D VR like this, I actually prefer 60 frames per second. It's a lot more immersive and lifelike. So stick with 30 if you're using this, and I think you'll find you like your footage a lot more. You can see what I mean here as I spin around. I think it looks great, 60 frames per second. I've of course got it in 60 frames per second right now. I've got the EV comp set to -3, and the ISO is set to auto. There aren't a lot of settings you can change on here, but there are a few when it comes to footage quality. The footage coming out of this looks really good from what I can see on the sample so far, so I'm kind of excited about that. It's really cool. It's easy to share. You can upload the footage. It's great if you're like walking through a scenic place and want to film that and have that 3D immersive look to it. Perfect use case there. I could see using this on some hikes when there's a particularly interesting place where I want to have a few minutes of footage that my audience can relive. That would also be a cool use case. And it's honestly also just something great for capturing family memories on there that you can relive. Some moments that you really like with your kids. Some moments with your kids or other family members that you'd like to look back at in a 3D immersive way. So really, I recommend this camera for anybody who wants that 3D immersive VR footage. And I do believe VR is the future. I think we're just getting started on that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that technology evolves over time. So let me know what you think about this below. Is the Kandao QooCam Ego something you're interested in? Have you done much with 3D VR immersive footage? Looks like we got a thunderstorm coming in. It's kind of a test of how quickly the lighting adjusts. This rock right here. You ready? Here we go. Good job. Look at those ripples on the water. Throwing it in. Good splash.
That was a big splash.
That was cool. You got the tree too. Did you find another?
Just go in there.
Good job.